So we cross the bridge. Again, we use this analogy of this conference, bridging the divide, healing the divide. We start on one side of the bridge in our human awareness, in our human understanding, in our human judgments of what happened. The other person is on the other side of the bridge. And then we begin to cross over the bridge into acceptance and understanding through the levels of consciousness and through the emotional level, through the heart space. One of the great things about our human body and our heart is that the heart, the emotional level, is that bridge between spirit and earth. Okay? Between the spiritual plane and the material plane. It passes through our emotional body. It passes through our heart space. This is the space of acceptance. So I invite you again to consider that as facilitators, our work is to assist the client to cross the bridge, to heal the divide, to bridge the divide in whatever is separating them from the other person, so that they can see their soul, have an experience of their soul, and then that soul is mirrored back and you have a reflection of your own soul. So again, to our great teacher, Bert Hellinger, I agree to all of it. So for me, when I hit that point of, I agree to all of it, grandfather, I was no longer burdened by the effect that his absence, his abandonment had on me, or that what kept me separated from my mother. I agree, grandfather. I agree to your fate. That was your fate and my mother's fate and ultimately my fate. I was then free to go. I was then free. I was then able to move on. So Rumi, I don't know. When did you write this? Pre-Christ? Pre-Christian days? Thank you. Thank you. 1200. 1200. 1200 years ago. Year 1200. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I think of it as the soul field. I will meet you there. But when the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Again, the silence. In the family constellations, when you reach that point in the constellation where there's silence and two souls have connected, there's silence because the soul feasts on the silence after carefully chosen words are spoken. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make sense anymore because we're souls, we are equal. It's an equal playing field. On the level of soul, everyone is equal. There's not a hierarchy. Everything is done, again, out of Bert's words, out of love and loyalty. Everything is done out of love and loyalty. So when you reach that level of soul and you reach that level of the collective, you understand that even these terrible things, even what my mother went through at 9 years old, losing her father, never see him again, had this larger reason. Then you can cross the bridge, the gatekeeper leaves, and you and your grandfather, or me and my grandfather, my mother and her father, are free to continue the journey as souls. They're no longer kept or caught in the human experience. So again, unless we agree to it, we're not free. We can't have soul awareness. Probably one of the most powerful things that Bert taught us. I agree to all of it. Agreeing to all of it frees the soul. It's through agreement and gratitude that the soul is free. And then you can see everything from the level of soul. So as we all know, as Jamy mentioned earlier, it's one thing here to stand on stage. It's another thing to experience it. Bert has a great quote. I remember in one of his early books, he says, it's one thing to talk about bulls. It's another thing to be in the bull ring. And that's, you know. It's one thing to talk about bulls. It's another thing to be in the bull ring. Pardon?
Would you please repeat the phrase?
Absolutely. It's one thing to speak about bulls. It's another thing to be in the bull ring. The analogy being, it's easy to talk about, I agree to it, I accept it. It's another thing, as we all know, to be in a constellation and stand across from somebody who we have these lower emotions of blame and anger and resentment to. And then to move across that field through those emotions and get to through the heart, through the acceptance process, to the level of agreement.